Warning, quantum core destabilization detected. Rivers had heard many concerning alerts during his decade as a deep space cargo pilot, but this one made his blood run cold. His android companion, Aria, 7, typically the epitome of smooth efficiency, now stood rigid in the cockpit of the stellar drift, its photoreceptors flickering between purple and green. Aria, run diagnostic sequence Alpha 9, commanded, his fingers flying across the holographic controls. The response wasn't encouraging. This unit is experiencing temporal displacement in memory cores, Aria's voice modulated between octaves. Recommended action, seek immediate technical assistance. Also, might I add that the current stellar arrangement reminds me of a particularly fascinating 21st century poem about Dash. Not now, Aria, interrupted, checking the navigation display. They were 3 days out from their intended destination, but Station Aurora, 7 lay just within range. The massive space station wasn't his first choice for repairs, it was notorious for its labyrinthine bureaucracy and exorbitant fees, but with Aria's quantum core showing signs of destabilization, he couldn't risk waiting. The station grew larger in his view screen, a gleaming construct of titanium and crystalline solar arrays spinning slowly against the backdrop of a violet nebula. As initiated docking procedures, Aria began reciting what sounded like ancient Earth stock market reports combined with Jovian opera lyrics. Station Aurora, 7 to approaching vessel, a crisp voice cut through his comm system. Please identify and state your purpose. This is independent cargo vessel Stellar Drift, requesting emergency docking clearance for android repairs, responded, trying to sound calmer than he felt. My companion unit is experiencing severe quantum core instability. A pause. Proceed to docking bay 17B. Be advised that all non-standard technological repairs must be cleared through proper channels. Transmitting preliminary paperwork now. Dash's console chimed with the arrival of what looked like enough forms to wallpaper his entire ship. He suppressed a groan as he guided the stellar drift toward the designated bay. Aria had switched to reciting something in what might have been ancient Martian. The docking procedure went smoothly enough, though Dash's credit account already felt lighter just looking at the station's pristine facilities. He managed to guide Aria down the boarding ramp, the android now alternating between walking normally and attempting what appeared to be classical dance steps. Repair facilities, he asked a passing station worker, who pointed him toward a nearby terminal. The directory listed dozens of repair shops, but one entry caught his eye, Veil Quantum Solutions, specialized in non-standard AI systems. Following the station's holographic guidance system, Dash found himself in a less polished section of Aurora, 7. Here, the pristine walls gave way to more lived-in surroundings, with tool marks and repair patches telling stories of countless technical adventures. The shop itself was marked by a simple holographic sign displaying an elegant quantum probability curve. As the door slid open, Dash's first impression was of organized chaos. Workbenches held partially dismantled devices, holographic diagnostic displays floated in the air, and the walls were lined with tools he couldn't even begin to identify. The air hummed with the sound of active quantum fields. "Welcome to Veil Quantum Solutions," called a melodic voice from behind a towering stack of equipment. "I'll be with you in just a moment." The voice's owner emerged, and Dash forgot his practiced explanation. The Zenovian woman before him stood nearly as tall as he did, her silver-toned skin seeming to shimmer under the workshop's lights. Forearms moved with fluid grace as she adjusted something on her diagnostic visor, and her iridescent eyes widened slightly as she took in Aria's condition. "I'm Naira Vale," she said, already moving toward the malfunctioning android. "And this is fascinating. A genuine Aria series? I haven't seen one of these in years." She circled Aria, who had begun to hum what sounded like ancient television commercial jingles. Rivers, he managed, trying not to stare as Naira's 4 hands simultaneously operated different diagnostic tools. "And yes, Aria, 7. She's been with me for 8 years, never had an issue like this before. The quantum core is experiencing temporal feedback loops, Naira murmured, studying a holographic readout. Quite severe ones, actually. How long has she been reciting Earth media? About 6 hours, Dash admitted. Started right after we passed through that new shipping lane near the Carina Nebula. Naira's eyes narrowed. The restricted zone? The one with all the quantum disturbance warnings? The long way around would have cost me 3 weeks' fuel, Dash defended, but he could feel his face heating up under her knowing look. Well, Mr. Rivers, she said, her lips curving in what might have been amusement, you've managed to create quite an interesting problem. Quantum core destabilization is serious enough, but this pattern. She gestured at the diagnostic display. I've never seen anything quite like it. Can you fix her? Of course, Naira replied, with the quiet confidence of someone who had never met a technical challenge she couldn't overcome. The question is, are you prepared for what we might find? Quantum cores don't usually react this way to simple spatial disturbances. There's something else going on here. Before Dash could respond, Arya suddenly straightened. Incoming transmission, the android announced in a perfect imitation of a station alert system. Priority 1 message 4. Its photoreceptors flickered rapidly. For the ones who watched the spaces between stars. Dash and Naira exchanged looks. This was definitely not part of Arya's standard programming. Well, Naira said, her iridescent eyes gleaming with interest, this just got even more fascinating. Shall we find out what your android is really trying to tell us, Mr. Rivers? Naira's workshop felt different after hours. The usual hum of quantum diagnostic equipment had been reduced to a soft whisper, and the overhead lights had dimmed to accommodate Zenovian night vision. Dash sat on a workbench, watching as all 4 of Naira's hands moved in perfect coordination across Arya's exposed neural matrix. Your modifications to her base systems are impressive, Naira said, her iridescent eyes reflecting the holographic readouts floating around her. Particularly this emotional response subroutine. Most humans would have kept the standard protocols. Arya's more than just a navigation assistant, Dash replied, trying not to focus on how the dim light made Naira's silver skin seem to glow. After 8 years together, you start treating the quantum consciousness like family. Naira's hands paused briefly. That's unusually sentimental for a cargo pilot. Let me guess, most humans you meet are just interested in getting their systems fixed and getting back to their routes? Most humans I meet don't trust non-standard AI systems enough to let them develop true consciousness, she corrected, then gestured to a particularly complex segment of Arya's neural pattern. Like this. You've allowed her learning algorithms to evolve naturally. It's beautiful work. Dash felt warmth creep into his face. You sound surprised. Pleasantly so. Naira's lower set of hands continued their work while her upper right hand brought up a new diagnostic screen. Though it does complicate our current situation. These quantum disturbances aren't random malfunctions, they're more like... Like what? Like someone planted a quantum key in her core, and passing through that restricted zone activated it. Naira's expression grew serious. Someone wanted Arya to receive a message, Mr. Rivers. The question is, who? And why? Before Dash could respond, the workshop's security system chimed. Maintenance inspection, announced a flat voice. Authorization code Gamma 79. Naira's hands froze. Station security never runs inspections at this hour. In one fluid motion, she shut down the diagnostic displays and activated a privacy screen around Arya. Something's wrong. The door slid open to reveal 2 figures in station security uniforms. Something about their stance made Dash's combat instincts flare, these weren't regular inspectors. Routine check, the taller one announced, their voice distorted by their helmet's filter. We've detected unusual quantum signatures in this sector. Everything here is properly licensed, Naira replied smoothly, her lower hands casually reaching for something under her workbench. I can show you my permits. The signatures match a pattern we're tracking, the second figure interrupted, moving toward the concealed Arya. We'll need to examine any active quantum cores. Dash stepped forward, positioning himself between the figures and Arya. My android is undergoing delicate repairs. Moving her now could destabilize her entire neural matrix. The first figure's hand moved toward their weapon. This isn't a request. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Naira's lower hands activated something that sent a localized EMP pulse through the workshop, temporarily disrupting the security figure's helmet systems. In the same moment, her upper hands grabbed Dash and pulled him behind a reinforced workbench. Energy weapons fired, leaving scorch marks on the wall where they had been standing. Station security doesn't use military-grade pulse rifles, Naira noted calmly, pulling what looked like a modified quantum disruptor from under the bench. You seem pretty well prepared for someone who just repairs androids, Dash observed as another shot sizzled overhead. And you seem pretty comfortable in a firefight for a simple cargo pilot. She flashed him a quick grin that made his heart skip. Want to trade life stories after we survive this? It's a date. The words left his mouth before he could think better of them. Naira's eyes widened slightly, but before she could respond, Arya's voice cut through the chaos. Priority message decryption complete, the android announced. Warning, content classified level Omega. Security protocols initiated. The workshop's lights suddenly shifted to deep red as Arya's quantum core began pulsing with energy. The attacking figures stopped firing, their attention drawn to the growing quantum disturbance. That's not possible, one of them muttered. The core should have been dormant. Whatever else they meant to say was cut off as Arya released a focused quantum pulse that dropped both figures to the floor, unconscious. The android's photoreceptors stabilized to their normal blue. Security threat neutralized, Arya announced in her usual calm voice. However, I should note that my quantum core is now operating at 47% above standard parameters. Also, I appear to have access to several restricted databases that I'm quite certain weren't part of my original programming. Dash turned to Naira, who was already running new diagnostics with all four hands. I don't suppose this is covered under your standard repair warranty? Hardly, she replied, but her eyes were alight with excitement as she studied the readings. Your android just interfaced with quantum security protocols that shouldn't even exist on this station. Do you realize what this means? That my repair bill is going to be astronomical? That Arya's quantum core has somehow been transformed into a key that can access the most secure networks in known space. Naira's expression turned serious. Those weren't random mercenaries, Someone very powerful knows what your android can do now, and they'll be sending more than just 2 agents next time. Then I should probably get Arya and go. You wouldn't make it off the station, Naira cut him off. They'll be watching all the docking bays now. Besides. She gestured to the complex quantum patterns now swirling through Arya's neural matrix. Your android is now carrying secrets that could reshape the balance of power in this sector. I've spent years tracking quantum data anomalies like this. If you want to understand what's really going on, and survive long enough to do something about it, you're going to need my help. Dash looked at the unconscious figures, then at Arya's pulsing quantum core, and finally at Naira. The Zenovian mechanic's silver skin was slightly flushed from the fight, and her 4 hands hadn't stopped moving across her diagnostic tools. She was brilliant, dangerous, and absolutely fascinating. I don't suppose this counts as our life story trading date, he asked. Naira's laugh was like quantum harmonics. Oh no, Mr. Rivers. When I take you to dinner, it won't be in my workshop surrounded by unconscious assassins. She paused, then added with a slight smile, though the night is still young, and I know a private place in the station's upper levels with excellent security and even better synthesized Earth cuisine. Are you asking me out while we're in the middle of a quantum conspiracy? Multitasking is a Zenovian specialty. All four of her hands made elegant gestures as she spoke. Besides, we need somewhere secure to analyze this data, and I'm hungry. Unless you're not interested. Dash grinned. Lead the way, Ms. Vale. Though maybe we should do something about our uninvited guests first? Already handled. She pressed a sequence on her quantum disruptor, and a containment field shimmed around the unconscious figures. They'll wake up in station security's drunk tank with scrambled memories and very bad headaches. Now, about that dinner. The restaurant pod extended from Station Aurora 7's upper ring like a crystal tear, offering a panoramic view of the violet nebula beyond. Dash had to admit that Naira's choice was impressive. The private booth's quantum privacy field ensured their conversation would remain secure while they worked, and the synthesized Earth cuisine was surprisingly authentic. So, Naira said, her four hands simultaneously managing a holoscreen, a glass of iridescent Zenovian wine, and a plate of what the menu called classic carbonara. Shall we trade those life stories while Arya processes the encrypted data? Arya sat quietly in the corner of their booth, her quantum core pulsing with a soft blue light as she worked through the mysterious protocols that had been activated. The android had insisted on running at minimal power to avoid detection, though she occasionally murmured fragments of what sounded like classified fleet movements. Ladies first, Dash replied, trying not to stare as Naira's silver skin caught the nebula's light. How does a Zenovian end up running a quantum mechanics shop on a human station? Who says I'm just running a shop? Her iridescent eyes sparkled with amusement. Though I suppose I owe you some truth after that firefight. I'm technically on extended leave from the Zenovian Science Academy's Quantum Intelligence Division. Extended leave? They didn't appreciate my theories about unauthorized quantum networks operating in human space. Her upper right hand brought up a complex diagram on the holoscreen. 3 years ago, I detected patterns in quantum fluctuations that suggested someone was building a secret communications network using modified android cores as nodes. The Academy called it paranoid speculation. Dash looked at Arya, then back at Naira. Not so paranoid after all. Precisely. Though I never expected to find proof in a cargo pilot's malfunctioning android. She paused, studying him. Your turn. How does a man who moves like a combat specialist end up hauling cargo through restricted zones? Would you believe I'm just naturally athletic? I would not. All four of her hands gestured dismissal. Your reaction time during the fight was military grade, and you positioned yourself to protect both Arya and our exit routes without thinking. That's training, not natural talent. Dash sighed, taking a long drink of his synthesized whiskey. Former Special Operations, Terran Fleet. We specialized in recovering sensitive technology from complicated situations. And now you're a cargo pilot with a highly modified android who just happened to fly through a restricted quantum anomaly zone? Pure coincidence, he said, then smiled at her skeptical expression. Really? I got tired of fighting other people's wars. Took my discharge bonus, bought the Stellar Drift, and picked up Arya from a surplus auction. Everything since then has been legitimate business. Until now. Naira's lower left hand reached across the table to rest on his. Her skin was surprisingly warm. Because whatever Arya accidentally accessed, it's got some very dangerous people interested in her. As if on cue, Arya's photoreceptors flickered. Decryption sequence complete. Warning, data contents classify as level Omega security risk. Recommended action. Immediate transfer to designated quantum security facility. Naira's hands flew across the holoscreen, analyzing the incoming data. Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern to something approaching alarm. This is impossible, she muttered. The quantum signatures, they're not just a communication network. They're coordinates. Hundreds of them, scattered across both human and Zenovian space. Coordinates to what? Before she could answer, the restaurant's ambient lighting shifted to red. A station-wide alert sounded, security lockdown in progress. All civilians are required to return to their designated quarters immediately. This is not a drill. They're here, Naira said, already moving. Her lower hands gathered their equipment while her upper hands brought up station security feeds on the holoscreen. Multiple teams, heavily armed. They're searching deck by deck. How many? At least 3 squads. Professional military gear, not mercenaries this time. She looked at him. Still think this was all a coincidence? Dash was already checking exits. The restaurant pod's design meant they had limited escape routes, but it also meant they'd see anyone coming. Arya, can you interface with station systems like you did in the workshop? Negative, the android replied. Station security protocols have been upgraded. However, I am detecting an unusual quantum signature approaching our location. Profile matches classified warship configurations. Naira's eyes widened. They brought a battlecruiser? For one android? Not for the android, Dash realized. For whatever Arya discovered in that quantum network. Those coordinates, they're weapons caches, aren't they? Someone's been hiding military hardware throughout both our territories. Setting up for a war that neither side knows is coming, Naira agreed grimly. And now we know too much. Her lower right hand squeezed his while her others continued working. I hope you haven't lost all your special operations skills, because we're about to need them. The restaurant's entrance cycled open. Armed figures in black combat gear began methodically sweeping the dining area. Trust me? Naira asked quietly. Completely, Dash replied, surprising himself with how much he meant it. All 4 of her hands moved at once. The holoscreen exploded in a burst of focused electromagnetic energy, temporarily blinding their pursuers. At the same time, she activated something on her wrist computer that caused the restaurant pod's emergency systems to engage. Warning, announced the station's computer. Environmental breach detected. Emergency containment protocols activated. The transparent walls of their private booth suddenly became opaque as emergency shutters began closing throughout the pod. In the confusion, Naira grabbed both Dash and Arya, pulling them toward what looked like a maintenance hatch. Please tell me that's not an airlock, Dash said as she began bypassing the hatch's security. Of course not. The hatch opened to reveal a narrow maintenance tunnel. It's a quantum maintenance conduit. The station's powered by a series of linked quantum reactors. If we can reach the central hub, we can use the quantum interference to mask Arya's signal. And if we can't? Naira's smile was both terrifying and thrilling. Then we find out if your ship is as fast as you claim it is. Either way. She paused, her iridescent eyes meeting his. I think we're well past simple mechanic and customer now. I think we passed that when you asked me to dinner in the middle of a firefight, Dash replied, helping her secure Arya for the climb. Behind them, they could hear the armed teams regrouping. Soon they'd figure out where their quarry had gone. But as Dash followed Naira into the maintenance tunnel, Arya secured between them, he found himself grinning. He'd left special operations looking for a simpler life, but somehow he'd found something better, a brilliant, dangerous woman who made quantum mechanics sound like poetry, a conspiracy that could reshape known space, and an adventure that promised to be anything but boring. By the way, Naira called back as they descended into the station's quantum heart, when we survive this, you owe me a proper dinner. Preferably one without tactical teams interrupting. Deal, Dash replied, watching her silver skin shimmer in the quantum reactor's glow. Though I'm starting to think life around you is never going to be boring. Would you want it to be? Not a chance. The quantum maintenance tunnels of Station Aurora 7 were never meant for human transit. Dash and Naira crawled through the narrow spaces between massive power conduits, their path lit by the ethereal glow of quantum energy streams. Arya followed behind them, her core pulsing in resonance with the station's power grid. "The quantum interference is working," Naira whispered, her 4 hands moving across her portable scanner. "They've lost our signal, but we can't stay here long. These tunnels are shielded against radiation for a reason." Dash checked his own readings. 20 minutes before we hit dangerous exposure levels. "Please tell me you have a plan beyond, hide in the radioactive tunnels." "I always have a plan." Her iridescent eyes gleamed in the quantum light. Arya's picked up fragments of their tactical communications. "They've got teams covering all major docking bays, but they're thin on the maintenance levels. If we can reach auxiliary docking ring C, we might dash." A massive tremor shook the station, cutting her off. Emergency lights flashed through the quantum-lit spaces. "Warning," the station's computer announced. "Unauthorized weapons discharge detected in outer ring. Hull breach in sectors 7 through 9. Emergency containment protocols engaged." "That battlecruiser isn't just for show," Dash muttered. "They're willing to damage the station to flush us out." "Quantum surge detected," Arya announced suddenly. "Primary core destabilization imminent. Recommendation: immediate evacuation of maintenance sectors." Naira's expression shifted to alarm. "They're overloading the station's quantum network. The surge will fry every system in these tunnels, including us." They began moving faster, Dash helping Naira navigate Arya through the increasingly unstable conduits. The quantum energy around them pulsed erratically, creating strange shadows and temporal distortions. "There," Naira pointed with her upper right hand while her lower hands worked to bypass a security seal. "Emergency access hatched to the cargo levels. We can look out." The warning came just as a section of conduit above them burst, spraying superheated plasma. Dash pulled Naira close, shielding her as best he could while Arya extended her own electromagnetic barrier. For a moment, they were pressed together in the narrow space, her silver skin surprisingly soft against him despite the danger surrounding them. "That's twice you've saved me," Naira said softly, her breath warm against his neck. "I'm keeping count too," he replied, trying to ignore how perfectly she fit in his arms. "Though your four-handed shooting skills saved us first." Another tremor interrupted the moment. They broke apart and moved quickly to the access hatch, all business again despite the lingering tension between them. The cargo levels were chaos. Emergency containment fields flickered across hull breaches while station personnel rushed to evacuate valuable goods. Through the massive viewport, Dash could see the battlecruiser's silhouette against the nebula, its weapon systems charging for another volley. "The auxiliary docking ring is 2 sectors ahead," Naira said, her hands flying across her scanner. "But we'll be exposed the whole way. They'll have snipers watching the open areas. Then we give them something else to watch." Dash turned to Arya. "That quantum pulse you used in the workshop, can you do it again?" "Affirmative," the android replied. "However, the energy requirement would leave me at 12% operational capacity." "Do it anyway. Target their communication systems." Arya's photoreceptors flared bright blue as she released a focused quantum burst. Across the cargo bay, security systems went haywire. Communication devices exploded in sparks, and targeting systems suddenly displayed phantom readings. Now, Dash grabbed Naira's hand, one of them, anyway, and they ran. Her other hands maintained their scanning equipment and kept Arya stable as they moved through the chaos. They were halfway to the auxiliary docking ring when Naira's scanner chirped a warning. "Multiple targets, converging from both directions. They're hurting us. Alternative route?" "None. Wait." All 4 of her hands suddenly flew across her quantum tools. The coordinates Arya decoded, one of them is here, on the station. Hidden in a maintenance vault near our position. We don't have time to dash. It's not just weapons, she cut him off. The quantum signatures match prototype stealth technology. Technology that could get us past that battlecruiser. Another tremor rocked the station. Through the viewport, Dash could see escape pods launching from the damaged sections. The battlecruiser's weapons were getting more precise, systematically cutting off their escape routes. How far to the vault? 30 meters, through that security checkpoint. Her iridescent eyes met his. The guards are still at their posts. Dash studied the checkpoint. 2 guards, standard station security rather than the tactical teams hunting them. They looked nervous, probably more concerned with the station's damage than checking IDs. Arya, how's your Shakespeare? The android's photoreceptors flickered. My cultural database remains partially corrupted, but I retain approximately 47% of my theatrical subroutines. Good enough. Follow my lead. They approached the checkpoint openly, Dash supporting Arya while Naira walked alongside them. As they got closer, Arya began projecting a station security uniform over her normal appearance, a trick Dash had installed years ago but rarely needed to use. Security inspection, Dash announced, showing an ID that would register as legitimate for exactly 3 more seconds. Quantum Core Maintenance Team. We need to check the vault systems before the surge reaches this sector. The guards looked uncertain until Arya suddenly straightened. To check, or not to check, that is not the question, for in matters of station security, vigilance is the better part of valor. While the guards tried to process this, Naira's lower hands were already bypassing the security systems. By the time they realized something was wrong, the doors had cycled open and closed behind the trio. That actually worked, Naira said, sounding impressed. Former special operations, remember? Sometimes the best infiltration method is just walking through the front door. He paused. The Shakespeare was a nice touch, Arya. Thank you, sir. Though I believe I mixed several plays there. Most irregular. The vault itself was unremarkable, just another maintenance space among hundreds. But when Naira's quantum scanner touched the back wall, sections of it shimmered and vanished, revealing a hidden chamber. Prototype quantum stealth generator, she breathed, all 4 hands moving in excitement. The theories were right, someone's been developing technology that can bend quantum fields around entire ships. With this, we could dash. The station's lights suddenly went red. Warning. Critical quantum surge detected. Station core destabilization in 15 minutes. Evacuation protocols initiated. They're forcing the issue, Dash realized. If we don't leave now, we'll go down with the station. Then let's not be here. Naira's hands moved with practiced efficiency, disconnecting the stealth generator from its housing. Help me with this. Arya, can you interface with it? Affirmative. Though I should note that combining experimental quantum technology with my already unstable core has an 82% chance of unexpected results. Story of my life lately, Dash muttered, helping Naira secure the device. Ready? She looked at him, silver skin flushed with exertion and excitement. Ready. Though when this is over, you still owe me that proper dinner. Assuming we survive. Oh, we'll survive. Her smile was fierce and beautiful. I have too many questions about your special operations days to die now. Another tremor shook the station, stronger than before. The race to Dash's ship would be desperate, and even with the stealth generator, their chances were slim. But looking at Naira's determined expression, feeling the warmth of her hand in his, Dash couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Then let's give them a show they'll never forget. The Stellar Drift's cargo bay had never been designed to house experimental quantum technology. As Dash prepared for emergency launch, Naira's 4 hands worked furiously to integrate the stolen stealth generator with Arya systems. The android sat perfectly still, her quantum core pulsing in sync with the prototype device. Warning, the station's computer announced. Core destabilization critical. Station-wide evacuation mandatory. 10 minutes until containment failure. How's it coming? Dash called from the cockpit, his fingers dancing across the launch controls. Quantum integration at 67%, Naira replied, 2 hands adjusting power flows while the others monitored stability. But Arya's core is showing strange resonance patterns. Whatever this technology is, it's not just stealth capability. Through the view screen, they could see the battlecruiser methodically sealing off escape routes. Smaller tactical ships patrolled the remaining open spaces, their weapons charged. Integration complete, Arya announced suddenly. However, I am experiencing unexpected data confluence. The stealth generator's quantum matrix contains embedded command protocols. They appear to be apocalyptic in nature. Naira's hands froze. Show me. Her eyes widened as she read the data streaming across her screens. This isn't just a weapons cache network. It's an automated war-triggering system. The stealth technology, the hidden supplies, they're all linked to quantum triggers that could start a conflict between humanity and the Zenovian alliance. Someone wants to force a war. Dash's voice was grim. Who? The quantum signatures suggest a third party. Someone playing both sides, waiting for the right moment to watch out. The warning came just as energy fire streaked past the ship. 3 tactical vessels had broken formation, moving to block their launch vector. Launch control override engaged, the station announced. All vessels grounded until further notice. Not happening. Dash's hands flew across the controls. Arya, execute override sequence Delta 9. Executing. Be advised that combining override protocols with experimental quantum technology may have unpredictable effects on local spacetime. Better than being vaporized, Naira said, securing herself in the co-pilot's seat. All 4 hands moved to auxiliary control stations. Ready when you are. Dash looked at her, really looked at her. Silver skin gleaming under the emergency lights, iridescent eyes bright with determination, all 4 hands prepared for action. In the chaos of the past few hours, he'd somehow fallen for the most fascinating woman in known space. About that proper dinner, he said. When we survive this, I know a place on Centauri Prime. Real atmosphere, actual Earth-grown food, no quantum physics allowed. Are you asking me on a date while we're about to attempt a suicidal escape? Seems like the right moment. Her laugh was like quantum harmonics. Get us past that battlecruiser alive, and I'll even wear something other than mechanics coveralls. Quantum surge detected, Arya interrupted. Stealth systems engaging. Warning, anomalous effects manifesting. The space around the stellar drift began to shimmer as the prototype technology activated. But instead of simply bending light around them, it created a cascade of quantum distortions. Reality itself seemed to flutter. The stealth field is interacting with Arya's modified core, Naira reported, all hands working to stabilize the effect. It's not just hiding us, it's creating localized quantum bubbles. Like microjumps through spacetime. Can we use it? If we time it right. Her eyes narrowed in concentration. The battlecruiser's main guns are charging. When they fire, the quantum energy will create a momentary corridor of distorted space. If we hit that at the exact moment our field pulses, we ride their own attack to freedom. Dash grinned. I like it. The battlecruiser's weapons reached full charge. Time seemed to slow as Dash waited for the perfect moment. Naira's hands moved in perfect coordination, channeling power between Arya and the stealth generator. Now, she whispered. Dash fired the engines just as the battlecruiser released its quantum-enhanced barrage. For a moment, space itself seemed to bend around them. Arya's core pulsed brilliantly, harmonizing with the stealth field. The stellar drift slipped between moments of reality, riding the quantum wake of the enemy's attack. They emerged behind the battlecruiser, already accelerating to jump speed. Behind them, Station Aurora 7 began emergency separation procedures as its quantum core reached critical levels. Multiple vessels in pursuit, Arya reported calmly. However, their targeting systems appear unable to establish lock. Additionally, I believe I am now technically existing in 3 different quantum states simultaneously. Most irregular. Can they track us? Dash asked, plotting an escape vector. Negative, Naira replied, her hands moving across the sensor displays. The stealth field is holding, and I'm broadcasting false quantum signatures to mask our jump trajectory. But... She hesitated. We need to decide what to do with this data. Knowledge of the hidden network, the quantum triggers, it could prevent a war, but it could also start one if it falls into the wrong hands. Or, Dash said slowly, it could fall into the right hands. A human special operations veteran and a Zenovian quantum scientist, working together to expose a conspiracy that threatens both our peoples. Might make a good team. Are you suggesting we become some sort of interspecies investigative duo? I'm suggesting we see where this goes. Both the mission and... He met her iridescent eyes. Everything else. Her smile was radiant. Well, you do owe me that dinner on Centauri Prime. And I suppose someone needs to keep improving your quantum modifications. Is that a yes? That's a, let's jump to safe space and discuss it properly. Preferably over actual, non-synthesized food. Jump coordinates set, Arya announced. Though I feel compelled to quote that parting is such sweet sorrow, seems thematically appropriate here. The stellar drift's quantum drive engaged, carrying them away from the chaos they'd left behind. But as the stars streaked into infinity, Dash looked at Naira, brilliant, dangerous, beautiful Naira with her 4 talented hands and her quantum-enhanced smile, and knew this was just the beginning. You know, she said, as the ship slipped between the stars, I never did get to finish fixing your android's original malfunction. I think she's running better than ever. Indeed, Arya agreed. Though I do hope we can maintain a reasonable balance between quantum physics and classic theater in future adventures. These existential uncertainties are quite stimulating. Dash laughed, reaching for Naira's hand, one of them, anyway. The others were already plotting their next move, because that's who she was. A brilliant mind that never stopped working, even when her heart was engaged elsewhere. So, he said, Centauri Prime? Centauri Prime, she agreed. But perhaps we make a few stops along the way. I believe we have some quantum caches to investigate. And a conspiracy to unravel. And a proper date to plan. The stellar drift sailed on through quantum-touched space, carrying its crew toward whatever adventures waited beyond the next jump point. They had a mission now, a purpose bigger than simple cargo runs or mechanical repairs. But more importantly, they had each other, a most improbable pairing of human determination and Zenovian brilliance, bound together by quantum fate and the kind of attraction that transcended normal space. Arya's quantum core pulsed contentedly as she monitored their course. End scene, she announced quietly, and the stars smiled in agreement.